Hi guys, welcome back and thank you if you've stuck with us so far. So we're coming to our end stages now with our hexagon, and I've had to just lay it down like this so that you can try and see it, because it's not a small piece, is it? But today we're going to concentrate most on is the edging. So when I finished off at the bottom, I left it as the stone colour, and that is because around that bottom edge there I'm going to go in with the fluffy cuff, similar to what I'm working on the arms there. That's just going to be around the cuff, but I've got a few more rows to go on that one yet. So that's what we're going to do around this bottom edge. But what I need to concentrate on now is this section at the bottom where we've made the hexagon bigger, and then bringing it in to blend with the top of our hexagon, and then that will then come in around our hood here, all the way around and back side to this corner of the hexagon. So it's basically working round in one huge section. So depending on what colours you've gone for so far, I'm going to start with this. This is going to be my edging, and I was torn between this and the teal blue because I wasn't sure on what buttons I wanted, but I found some perfect buttons that match the teal, which means I'm going to go in with the cream, or the stone colour as I keep calling it, and I'm going to have to blend that through. So I'm going to start on this corner here, and I'm going to just do a row just to keep it all nice and tidy of, I think I'll do the one row of half double crochet just to try and bring it all in before we then start with the pattern of front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So I'll basically do a few rows of that, which will create a nice edging. Again, it's up to you with how many rows you'd like to do. I normally do about 3, possibly 4, but obviously in with that edging I want to put in some buttonholes, so that's why I want to go through how I do this edging with you all, so that once we've gone so far I can tell you to stop and show you where your buttons go. So choose what yarn you're going to go in with, and I will meet you at this bottom edge here. So I just wanted to add as well, this is the bottom of the cardigan. I'm now working along this side here, which will be up the front of the cardigan. The reason I've stopped there and I haven't gone ahead with putting the fur around that edging just yet is because I knew that I was going to have to build here. So obviously if I'd have done a fur line in there, a fur edge, then this side then wouldn't then blend in, would it? Because the edging then would start here, and you've got your cuff here, and then you've got your edging here, so it just wouldn't have made sense to do that. So leave that until the last thing that we do, and that will be an all the way around fluffy edge, so it'll just tie the entire thing in all together. So that's why, just in case you was wondering why I haven't gone ahead and put the fur on there yet. So like I said, I've gone ahead and put our 3 in there, or haven't, no, 2, sorry, excuse me, and we're just going to go ahead now and put 2 more half double crochets in here. And the reason I'm going for the halves is because I don't want it to stand out too much what we're doing, because this is the edge that I want to bring in so that it doesn't stand out, if you know what I mean. So that's why I'm just keeping it as a small stitch. I don't want to do a single crochet, but half double just keeps it enough so that I can then on the next row begin to do those front post and back post double crochets. So this will count as our 3. So as we've been doing all the way along, we've not been putting a chain in to get us over there. However, here is obviously a chain 3 from a previous row, so what we're going to have to do is go into there, bring up a loop, and let's see about that half double crochet. Okay, and keep going with your halves. Like so. So it just keeps the stitches nice and small. Don't worry too much if you feel like that's dragging, because once we get going with our rows, that will even out. We'll put our border on and you won't even notice that it's done that. So again, over to this space now, just similar to what we've been working. It's just that it's a little bit tighter to work because of the half double crochets instead of doubles. Okay, so now we're going to go over to here. And so keep your stitches a little bit loose if you can, just so that your work doesn't pinch up too much. Okay, so next one is going to be, don't forget you've got the stone, then we did a row with the fluffy, and then we did the stone, which means that our next half doubles are in there, a little bit hidden. Well, that's where they're going to be. The next one's going to be here. Now, see how you've got that space there? It's entirely up to you whether you want to crochet into the space or whether you want to go along and put them in that chain 3 space. Now I'm going to try and get them in there because then it'll build on as we go a little bit further with our rows, but you don't have to. It's again, it's personal preference. I'll have a look and see if I can, and if we can we will, and if we can't we'll go into it. It's just that little bit of added stability. If you can't get more than one in, don't worry too much about it. It's like I said, it's just to try and give that little bit of stability, she says. So I think I'll get one in there, and then I might have to go into the space, which again is fine. Oh, she keeps dropping it there, doesn't she? There we go. Okay, so now into this one. So again, I'll try and get one in if I can. No, I've not got it there. So this is always the awkward part really, to work this section until you get up here, and then it's just continuing the pattern as we have done. And once I've got this row, it will carry on like that, so it's not too bad. It's just thinking about where you want your stitches to be so that they're even for the following rows. That's the main thing. Okay, so now we are going, let's see, we're going to go into there if we can, because bear in mind your next one will be there, so we want our stitches to be around here. Okay, and over to this one. And the next. So just carry on now with those halves, just up until you reach the shoulder part and you come into the hood, and I'll work that section with you. Right guys, so I've left that stitch marker in there, and that is where we began our hood. Now what I want you to do, again, we've still got the spaces going on like we had at the bottom, but I just wanted to explain some of it just so that you understand it as we go forward. So round here we've done the half double crochet just to neaten off that edge. Now once we've done that and we get to the opposite side, we will turn our work, and then we'll be working into the top of every single stitch. Now when you do that, remember that you haven't chained in between. Okay, so in here, these little spaces, you haven't chained in between, so you'll do 3, 3, 3, 3 and carry on like that. Again, it's up to you whether you want to do half double crochets or whether you want to do double. I myself will probably begin doing doubles then. I've only done the halves just on this section here because I want it to be nice and neat all the way down the edge to the bottom. That ties our work in nicely, so that then the following row, which may stand out a little bit more, because that's then after that row you will then be working into that row below, because you're doing the front post and back post double crochet. So that's why we're doing what we're doing right now. So again, we're just sticking with those half double crochets. Now we're going to work into the spaces like we've done all the way along. If you don't want to work in space, then you can by all means work into the chain 3. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to just work into the spaces. Like I said, this row isn't going to be all that noticeable. That's what we're planning anyway. Okay, over to the next one. So it's these rows that then begin to bring the hood in nicely with the rest of the cardigan. And then that row of the fluffy arm, which finishes it all off later on, will just give it that magic touch. So again, we've worked a cluster under there, so we want to be making sure you don't miss that space. Just look at this edging now to be your finishing line. You're nearly there. Okay, and now I'll be working into that space on the opposite side of that fluffy. Okay, and we just keep going like that now until we get down to that same bottom edge where we've increased our rows, which again will be slightly different, just like what we've done on the first side. Now, I hope my instructions have been clear so far. If you have run into any issues, as I've said on the previous videos, by all means reach out and let me know, and I'll do my best to rectify it and make that easier and explain anything. But that's our hood edge now, and it is looking quite nice and straight, isn't it? Which is what we want for our next row. Little tail there from where I've changed colours from the previous. I'll snip that bit off later on. Right, so we're out of that middle section now, which was where we put that seam where we've sewn our hood. So at this section, it is entirely up to you how you want to work it. You can either just put half doubles all the way along, it's up to you. But I'm just going to do what I've done previously, which is go one on this side, one in the middle, and one on the opposite side, just so that it continues on. Like I said, you don't have to worry too much about it, but yeah, you just want that to continue on. I'm just going to go back and neaten that because I don't like that stitch there. But yeah, it's entirely up to you how you want to work that. Let's have a look. As long as you get a 3 into that middle, you're good. Okay, that's not too bad. You'll never get them spot on when you're trying to get them into the middle of the seam like that. But that's how I'm going to leave it for now. And then I'm just going to go on to this space. So you see, it just keeps that edge nice and even. Like I said, you're going to put fluff on here as well as the rest of the edging, so all that will tie in. So don't worry too much about it. Okay, over to this one. Now we're going to go over to that piece there. Right, so I just want you to continue doing the exact same thing until you reach that section just where you start to increase at the bottom of your hexa, and I'll meet you there. So we're coming back down to that end there. So we've done 3 here, so we need to go over to this one now. Don't worry too much about that one. And still just keep going with your half double crochets. Okay, so the next is through here. And we're just doing as we have done on the opposite side, so we're coming through this one. Just pulling up a little bit more yarn there. So now we're here, and that'll be our last one. So we're going to do just like we've done previously with two half doubles. And then the last one, try and get it into one of those stitches. There we go. So we've just reached the end of that first round to prepare the cardigan for our edging. Now the next round I want to be doing double crochet into each stitch. Now what you've got to remember is that you haven't chained in the middle, so you'll be doing 3, 3, 3 and so on until you've got basically a double crochet in every single stitch all the way around your cardigan, and that will be the first round to get ready for the pattern for the front row, front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So right now I've chained one already, apologies, so we will turn our work. Okay, so now I will chain 2 more. Okay, so that's how you start, and now it is just double crochet into every stitch like so. Nice and simple. But like I said, you're going to be doing this now the entire way around, even around the hood, around the shoulders. The only part you're not doing is you're just going from one edge to the other. You're not going underneath, so don't go that far. You're literally just going where your stitches are. So I'm going there because obviously there's a chain there from the row below. So we've got 1, like I said, it's not hard, it's just a little bit of thinking about, that's all. But you just remember you are coming to the finishing line, you're not far from it now. A few more rounds, and then if you're popping buttons on, you'll have to continue with me until we get to that stage. So you've got a space there, but we're not working into the spaces, we're working into the stitches this time. Don't worry too much if you see a little bit of a gap, it'll all even itself out eventually. It's just you've got to get that first round going. Okay, so I just want you to keep going like so until you get to the other side, and then I'll meet you there and we will begin. So we've just reached the end of that first round to prepare the cardigan for our edging. Now the next round I want to be doing double crochet into each stitch. Now what you've got to remember is that you haven't chained in the middle, so you'll be doing 3, 3, 3 and so on until you've got basically a double crochet in every single stitch all the way around your cardigan, and that will be the first round to get ready for the pattern for the front row, front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So right now I've chained one already, apologies, so we will turn our work. Okay, so now I will chain 2 more. Okay, so that's how you start, and now it is just double crochet into every stitch like so. Nice and simple. But like I said, you're going to be doing this now the entire way around, even around the hood, around the shoulders. The only part you're not doing is you're just going from one edge to the other. You're not going underneath, so don't go that far. You're literally just going where your stitches are. So I'm going there because obviously there's a chain there from the row below. So we've got 1, like I said, it's not hard, it's just a little bit of thinking about, that's all. But you just remember you are coming to the finishing line, you're not far from it now. A few more rounds, and then if you're popping buttons on, you'll have to continue with me until we get to that stage. So you've got a space there, but we're not working into the spaces, we're working into the stitches this time. Okay, don't worry too much if you see a little bit of a gap, it'll all even itself out eventually. It's just you've got to get that first round going. Okay, so I just want you to keep going like so until you get to the other side, and then I'll meet you there and we will begin our front post and back post. We're just coming up now on our last little bit, and then I'll show you how to work it in the opposite direction. So I'm going to work the next row, which again will be double crochets. You don't have to work double if you don't want to. If you want a smaller space, more compact, then by all means carry on with the half doubles like we did on the first round. Sometimes I do that if I just want it to be a little bit tighter. What I want you to remember, I know I say it a lot all through the videos, but I started with just a chain 3, which counted as my first double crochet, and that's exactly at our end as well. It just keeps that edging nice and straight, in my opinion anyway. Okay, so that's the last stitch, so I'm just going to pop my double crochet into the top of that half, and that is our first row, the front post and back post double crochet, and it's coming up nice and neat. Now if you look there, this is where we added on. Remember I said that we did the half double crochets to tie it in? Well, this is where the work stopped, and then this is the length that we've added, and you cannot tell any difference whatsoever, and that's just by adding those half double crochets to begin your edging, just to keep it that little bit tidier. And it works nice as long as you stick to those same colours. You can't go wrong really. Right, so I've turned my work. I haven't chained anything yet. Just pull up some more yarn. I just want to show you now how you work this pattern on the opposite side. So like I said, I've turned my work. I'm going to chain 3, which will count again as the double crochet, but don't forget, when you're here like that, this looks like your first one, but it's not, it's that one. So that is the one that we won't be working into. So chain 3, which counts as your first double, or 2 if you're working a half double. Like I said, it's entirely up to you. So at the other side here, we've got the chain 3, we've got a back, front, back, front. So on this side, it's the opposite of that. So what would be the back on that side is the front on this side. So it's the same pattern, but worked in reverse. So that then is our first front. But on the other side, it's our back. And then the next one is a back loop, which is a front on the other side. So it makes it easier to work because the pattern is already there and done for you. So you're just working into whatever you see in here. So that looks like a front, so you will be working a front. That's a back, that's a front. So I hope you see what I mean there and I'm making sense. But it's just a case of following the pattern that you've already got from the other side, which you've already created. So like I said, I'm going to do this row, which will take me back to our beginning where we started, and then I'm going to begin the buttons. So I just want you to carry on with this now to get you back to that with the corner, and then we will start putting our buttonholes in. Now you'll have to decide on what buttons you are going to use size wise. I've gone for a 30mm button for mine. In the past I have used slightly smaller, but I prefer the 30mm size, so that's what I've gone for. So obviously my buttonholes will work for that size of a button. If you've got different, then you'll need to work different. You'll either need to make it a little bit smaller, or if you've gone for bigger than a 30, then you will probably need it to go a little bit bigger than what I'm going to make. But we'll talk about that when we get there. For now, just continue working this all the way along until you get back to your beginning, and then we'll take it from there. Right guys, I've got to one of the important bits in how we start to finish off our cardigan, and this part we'll be talking about the buttons. So basically I get asked this all the time: how do you create your buttonholes? So that's what I'm going to take you through today. So first things first, lay your cardigan flat on the floor or wherever you've got a nice big surface where you can lay it down evenly so that the ends are in the right place. And then what I do is I go and I choose the correct button. Now these ones are a 30mm, which is pretty much the biggest I go when it comes to the hexagon cardigans, because I don't like them looking like clown buttons, if you like. So these particular buttons, I managed to get them off eBay, luckily. And I tell you, they were difficult to find in this colour. But we've done well with matching. It should fit in nicely. And that's why I chose this colour as the edging, because I knew that I'd get the nice contrast. So the way I then begin to judge my buttons is I think about, obviously first things first is that we're going to have that edging around. So we need to think about that. So I started my first one around here because I don't like a button to be right at the beginning of the work. I never have done, so I always just do them just a few spaces up, and then I start counting, right? So I don't worry too much about this. I just eyeball it, okay? But I have done, let's see, just for reference for you guys, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I have 5 of them up, and that's where I've put my stitch marker. Then what I do then is I count even spaces between each one. So from the starting button, I've then counted, and I count these, you know, the front post double crochets that you've done. That's how I judge it. So I count 7 of these to get to that next space, and then I count another 7 to get to the next space, and another 7 to get to that last space. Now, as a rule, I normally do between 3 and 4 buttons on these cardigans. Now if you want to do more, that's perfectly up to you. All you'd have to do is count less spaces between, especially if you've got a smaller button as well. Obviously, like I said, these are as big as I go, which are the 30mm. Now if you've got, say, you know, half that, then you'll want to do closer together. So instead of doing the 7, you could go in between at 4. It's entirely up to you. Depends on what you've got in front of you. But this is what I do to begin mine, and I'm now about to show you how I put that into practice. So grab everything together. You'll need a needle that will go through your button. Check that it'll go through the eye of your button to make sure that it's the right size. You'll want the yarn with which you're going to attach your buttons. So for me, I'm going to attach with this colour. But like I said, your buttons won't be being attached here. This is just where we're going to make the holes. The buttons will be attached on this side, so that then you put the button through and it comes through the hole. So like I said, get everything together and we will start doing this. Okay, so we've now got the normal double crochet, front, back, front, back, front. We've done another back and we're to the front again. Now bear in mind we've got this here, which is where our stitch marker is. We've got 1, 2, 3 stitches there, so I've chained 3, and we're going to come over to this front post here. So keep your tension nice and tight through this one, and then just do your normal front post double crochet. And there is the beginning of our first button. Like I said, if you've got smaller buttons, then you can make that smaller. Perhaps go to this one, miss one, and go into that back one there, whichever suits your particular button. Like I said, mine are quite big, so I've had to leave a bigger hole for it. And then when we come to the next round, we will finish that off. So let's just go on to the next one now, which will be here. So we've got 7 that we've got to go around. So that first one is a back. Oh, sorry, I've not done yarn over there. Yarn over and into that back post. So it's relatively simple. It's just a matter of knowing where you're going to put your stitches. I always try to do it so that they match, but it's not absolutely crucial that you do that. So long as you've got the even number of stitches. And then when we come round to our next row, we'll drop down then to half double crochets. And the only reason I do that is because at this point I don't want that edging going much bigger, much wider. That's about right, really, like I said. So once we do the half double crochet, sometimes I'll even just go around and do a single crochet just to finish it off. So we'll see what it looks like when we get to that at the end and we turn our work. We shall see. As you notice, with most things I do, I kind of make my mind up as I go around as to what I want to do. So I don't make it easy for you all. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so we're starting to come up to this again, which is our stitch marker for our second buttonhole. I've got that front post there, then I've got a back, front, back and front again. So what I'm going to do is chain 3 like we've just done on the other. 1, 2 and 3. And I'm going to come over to this front post here. So yarn over and do your front post double crochet. Bring that through 2 and through that last 2, and that is our second buttonhole. And then we go again. To back, front, sorry if I veered off camera there. Okay, so we're back again. So this is the front. Okay, so we've approached that next buttonhole. So again, I've got the front post there, so I'm going to chain 3. And I'm going to come over then to that next front, which is there. See, the main thing you've got to remember is that however many stitches you miss, you've got to chain that amount. So I've missed 3 there, so which is why I've chained 3. So just make sure that if you only do a smaller stitch, a smaller buttonhole, then you'll need to obviously chain less than I am. Like I said, I've got 30mm buttons, so they've got to be able to go through there, which I've checked and they do. They stretch enough. Okay, so now we're back doing our normal. So back post. Front. As I've said all the way through the videos, if you do hit any problems that you're not sure about, by all means reach out and I'll always try to help if I can. Okay, so bear in mind we're coming to this next buttonhole, so make sure if you're doing what I'm doing, you get to that front post double crochet before that. So it's this one. So we've got another back. And one more front. Okay, so we're here again. So we chain 3 and we go into this front post. Yarn over, under, pull up a loop through 2 and through 2 more, and that is our last space for our buttonholes. So we're just going to be carrying on as we've done throughout the entire cardigan with our front post and back. So you're not doing anything different now, you're just continuing with that front post and back post until you get to the other side. So I shall meet you back there and we'll do the next row. Just before we get round to that other edge, I just wanted to show you how nice your hood is beginning to look now. So this is all the hood, this is where we stitched it together, and our edging is looking lovely as well, isn't it? So remember how I said to you about them stitches there that you wouldn't notice if you had any slight imperfections along there, and you can't see anything, can you? Looks fab. So we'll just keep going now, working that round. Like I said, that edging now is getting to a nice size, so I wouldn't really want it to go much bigger than what we've got now. Now I just wanted to put in as well, depending on how you want your work to look, obviously we're working on the correct side of the work now, but when you get to that other corner, if you decide that you're going to turn your work, that is then going to be worked on the wrong side, isn't it? So it's completely up to you as to whether you want to cut your yarn off there and reattach it on the other side where you've just done your buttonholes, just to make sure that your work is on the correct side. Now, me personally, I would prefer that because it's going to be that last edge, but it's not an absolute must. Bear in mind, you're gonna, if you do like I am, and you're gonna put that fur edging around, nobody is going to see that last edge. But me being me, I am going to do that. I'll show you how to turn if you decide that you want to keep it on the right side, but me personally, I am going to cut off and reattach on the other side. It's surprising just how much work goes into these, even though it's just a simple granny stitch hexagon. There's still quite a bit of work that goes into it once you put all the components together. And that's why I always say to people, really, is that doing a hexagon cardigan is easy, but you've got to break it down into components. So you've got your main body, then you've got your back panel, then you've got your length, then your arms, cuffs, hood. So that is where the work really starts to just show that extra little bit of care and attention does pay off. And then if at any time you start to get fed up or you're getting frustrated with a section, put it down, have a break, nice cup of tea, and then pick it back up again. I'm sorry, I keep wandering off camera there. Like I said, we're just carrying on. Another thing as well, where you put the stitch markers before to mark where you're going to put the buttonholes, leave those stitch markers in for now, don't remove them. And you can also, if you wish, make a note of where you've placed those stitch markers. Like I said, there was 7 between each of mine, just for when you come to put your buttons on the opposite side, you can either do it so that you're doing the right spaces, or you can eyeball it. 9 times out of 10 I eyeball it, but I have done a few of these, so I'm used to doing it. But if you haven't done that before, then just make a note so you know where you're up to. Okay, so we're coming up to those last few stitches now. So we've got a back, front, and then one more back in there. And now we're left with that one double crochet there, which you just do normal. And that is our double. So what we do now, if you're not going to do like I'm going to do, which is cut and start again on the other side, because I want to work on the right side of my work, you can chain one, and we're going to go to half doubles now. So turn your work, and again we've got this normal stitch below, so a half double would say 2 single crochets, and you just do halves instead of doubles. So if a back, and through all loops, and that is it. That is all you need to do. Through that front one, pull through and pull through them all, and it just makes your stitch a little bit shorter, because again, like I said, I don't want my edging to go any bigger. And then on the right side of work, if I just pull that out and show you, it just gives that nice shorter edge. So that's all you do. You just carry it on around until you got to those buttonholes, and then I'll show you what to do. And like I said, that looks perfectly nice, doesn't it? In fact, I think I'll keep it going that way. So let's just carry on. Like I said, I've started, so I may as well continue. But it's up to you. If you want to do that and cut off and go on to the other side, you can. But again, because I'm doing that furry edging, you won't really see these stitches, so it is entirely up to you as to what you'd like to do. But like I said, I started on this side, so I may as well just continue on. But if you want all your work to face on the right side of your work, then you absolutely can. But at this stage, you're not really going to see any difference. Ooh, I just dropped that one, excuse me. All three. Yeah, so you're still working the front post and back post, it's just that now you're doing half double crochets instead of doubles. If you've got this far in the video, then a great big thank you. Much appreciate it that you've stuck with me through all of it. And if you don't mind, give me a like below. I'd appreciate it. Yeah, so you can just continue working all the way back round until you get to that first buttonhole or just before it, and I shall meet you back there and we'll continue with our buttonholes. Right, so we're just before our buttonhole there, and you can see that, one, because your stitch marker is still in, and two, because you've got a gaping big hole. So carry on as you've been doing again with your halves, front post and back post. So there's 1 and 2. Okay, now we've got 1 remaining, which is a back post there, which on the opposite side it was a front post, if you remember. Okay, now we're at this space, which is our buttonhole. Now I did a chain of 3 there, which counted for these 3 stitches. So what I'm going to do now is keep the tension nice and tight, and I'm going to put 3 half double crochets into that space. Okay, and then I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go as a back post half double crochet there. Pull that through and up. Again, keep your tension pretty sturdy at this section, and it just gives you that nice little finish there. And then we're going straight over to this one, so yarn over, that's the front post, and half double crochet, then we're doing a back, and continuing on like this until we get to that next space for our buttonhole. So it's quite simple, it's just a matter of keeping it nice and sturdy so it doesn't sort of drift off and you end up with a massive hole. But like I said, I've got a 30mm button that I've got to get through there, so that will just be right. Now I know some people do it in the opposite direction, so I'm sorry if you're one of those people, but this is how I do it, unfortunately. Like I said, I've never followed a pattern yet, it's just my own experimenting as to what I like. It's just the way that I've always done it like that. Again, we're coming up to there, so that is a back post because it was a front on the other side. So there's your half. There's your 3 stitches that you've missed, so you've chained 3. So yarn over into that space, pull up a loop and go through all 3 again. There is the 3 half double crochet, so now we want to do a half double crochet into that back loop there. So if you've never done this before, it might be easier to do it on the opposite side, on the right side of your work, but you're only basically putting into them spaces what you've taken out from the bottom. That's why I said make sure you know how many spaces, how many chains you do and how many spaces you skip. So whatever you skip from the bottom, you'll chain however many number of stitches, and then you will just half double crochet that amount of stitches into the space. Then it's entirely up to you then on how you end Now, me personally, I will end on that row, but there's nothing stopping you if you want to do is to go around and do a single crochet round. It's completely up to you. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. A bit more yarn. So we've got 2 done so far. We've got another 2 to do yet. We're just coming up to that next one. So we've got a front, and then we've got a back. Okay, so now we want 3 half doubles into here. So yarn over into that space, pull up a loop and go through all 3. And again, yarn over into the space, pull up a loop and go through all 3. And one more, pull up a loop and go through all 3, and then there is a back post there. Through all 3 in front, and we've got 1 remaining. Sometimes I only do 3 buttons, it just depends on what I fancy really, and what buttons I've got and how many I'm gonna put on. See, if the bigger buttons, then sometimes you'll put less on, but like I said, with these ones, they came in a pack of 4, so it's a shame just to leave 1 odd button out, so I may as well include all 4. Okay, we're up to that space again, so we want a back in there. And then we want 3 half double crochets into this space. Yarn over into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over and through all the loops. Again, over, pull up a loop, yarn over and through all 3, and again. Okay, so now we've got a back stitch here, so we're going to be going round and through, pull your yarn through, yarn over and through them all, and that completes our last space. So we'll just continue on now to the bottom. So I hope you found that easy enough. Like I say, if you have got any questions, then just pop them in the comments below, or you can reach out to me on either Instagram or Facebook. That one, which is a back. And then we have got 1 stitch remaining, which will be a half double crochet just into that last chain. Okay, and that completes that round for me, so I'm going to yarn over, pull it through and snip it off. Now I've got a few tails there, obviously from starting and stopping and whatnot, but don't worry too much, because when it comes to the round of fluffy, you can weave them in and then cut them, which is all I'm going to do, so I'm not too worried about those right now. Okay, so now what I want you to do is to lay your cardigan flat on a flatter surface, side to side with your edges, and we'll have a look. Let me just straighten mine out. Okay guys, so I've put mine side by side, and what I've done is I've just put stitch markers where I want the buttons to be, which is directly opposite these. Now sometimes it's a little bit difficult, so make sure that when you're counting that you check this, because obviously you've got that space there which you haven't got here. So just make sure that you get them in the right places opposite what you've got there. So for the first one then, which will be this one for me, okay, leave that there. And let's try and get our button on. Okay, so I'm going to take that off just so it's nice and easy for me. And then I put my needle, you can see here, I put my needle right through there. Okay, so I know that this is where I'm going to put my button. Now I've done a long thread which basically is just so that I can knot it underneath, which just gives it a little bit more of a sturdy feel, and then I will pop that back through like this, try and go back through the same space, and this is where my button will start to be attached. Well, let's make sure I put it on the right way. You can go either way with these buttons. Okay, so I also like my buttons to be that way rather than that way, but again, that's a personal preference, just for me, so don't worry too much. Make sure you get a good few rounds through that. It's quite difficult doing this on camera. There we go. Make sure you pull that quite nice and tightly. Like I said, sometimes when you're going through yarn, it can be a little bit difficult to get them first few rounds. Just make sure you've got it nice and tight. So I just continue to do that then all the way along, and then any little pieces left over I tie in a knot just to give it a little bit more strength. Sometimes going through wool, it can leave it a little bit on the looser side. Cut those tails nice and neatly, and there is our first button attached. Okay, so the next one we're going to be going up to, which will be this one. Okay, so again, I mean, I also think when you crochet a garment, sometimes it is difficult to get that button in exactly the same stitch as you want it. So I do say, you know, eyeball it a little bit. So if you know that you're in more or less the right spot, don't overstress that you're not in the exact, the exact crochet from them rounds. The main thing is getting it on and it lining up. So as long as it lines up, you're fine. Okay, so this one was mine here. Just going to double check that. Yep. Like I said, you can, if you wish, you don't, if you've got coloured buttons like this, you don't have to use, the same colour as the button if you don't wish to, because like I said, it will look a little bit more obvious on the opposite side. However, I also think you don't need to worry too much, because again, I'm going to put that fluffy edging around. So although like these now, they look like they're quite close to that edge, but that's actually something I've done deliberately, because I know that I'm going to put that fluffy edge on. Because like I said, I know that you're not going to worry. I'm not going to worry too much about that. I don't need to. Okay, so I'm just going to thread that through there. Pull it nice and tight. Then I tie a knot in that little tail that I've left from when I started, from the first knot. And I just do another little one. So yeah, I know you can see it on that side. You're going to, because you've got a completely different colour. But it'll be worth it for it to be like that, because of how the button will look. See, they look great, don't they? So again, you just keep going with that now until you've got all your buttons on, and then we'll pop them through and see how they look. Right guys, so I've got all 4 of our buttons on. So now it's the moment of truth. Do they line up perfectly? So take all your stitch markers off. Okay, so that 4th one, which is the first, 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. So once they're all set up and they soften a little bit, obviously they're a little bit stiff because they've just been sewn on, but they all look really nice, don't they? And that, my friends, is how I do my buttons. So on to the next part, which will also be the last part. Woohoo! So this part is going to be our furry edging. Okay, so this is the last section of our cardigan, and it's an important step, because for this furry cardigan, it really does finish it off with that little touch of sass. So if you're like me, you've got this nice furry yarn, then go get it. Get to where you're going to begin, which for me will be this corner. Attach it, and I'll meet you there. Right guys, so I'm just about to start with my fluffy edging. Now I just wanted to quickly show you, this is the cuff of one arm that I finished off. So I don't want it to be quite as thick as this, but I want a good 2 rounds on it. Now this is not all that easy to work with into the chains. Now it's okay on this round, but when it comes to the next round, make sure you put a stitch marker at the very beginning of your second round, because otherwise it can be really difficult to see where one round ends and another one begins. And you want to make sure that you're keeping it consistent with your round. You don't want to be sort of finishing halfway round because you think that's where it finishes. So all I'm doing on here is double crochet into every single stitch, and then when it comes to the next round, if I just show you there, you can kind of see where your chains are. So I will be going into those at the top there. So yeah, so I'm just going to do 2 rows of this in the standard double crochet, and then that will just finish our cardigan. But I will be going all the way around, so I'll be going all the way around the front, around the hood, all along the bottom edge, so that it just brings every single section that we've worked together. Like I said, super simple, but with this yarn it can be a little time consuming while you're watching where your stitches go. So we're coming to the first buttonhole there, so we know that there's 3, so we've got that one. So it's easier to work with this yarn. However, it's slippery, and because it is so fluffy, it does make it hard to see after round 1. But it's hard to explain. You can feel your way around with this, so you can feel that you've gone through your stitches. But like I say, it does give a really nice effect on that finish. If you look there now, that buttonhole just looks like it was supposed to be there, doesn't it? You know, it just fits in really nicely. So yeah, so just continue around with this for at least 2 rounds, possibly 3 if that's what you'd like to do. That particular one on the arm, I think I did 4 rounds with that. Yeah, 4. But it did come out lovely as a cuff. So, you know, it's perfect for what it is. But around that edging, you might want to do a little bit less just because you have got quite a big edging here. So it's entirely up to you. But that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to aim for 2, but possibly 3. And I will check in with you once I've completed. Right guys, here is our finished hexagon cardigan. Loving how it's turned out. I did do the extra 2 rounds just around the edging there to just finish it off with that fuzzy feel. The buttons match perfectly, and we've got a really nice colour variant all the way through, as if those colours were always meant to be together. Now if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed the videos, hit that like button and subscribe for the next video to be posted. And after all that, thanks for joining, guys.